Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Here we are on a Saturday night on the 19th of January, 2019, and we do have a major winter storm that is impacting the weather in the northeastern United States. So we're going to get right to it. Just to do some just quick hellos to those of you that are on my weather app on Android. You can download it on Google Play. Welcome aboard. And also welcome to New York, New Jersey, Connecticut Stormwatch page on Facebook, Angry Ben's Angry Weather Facebook page, meteorologist Jeff Banson's Facebook page. Welcome tonight to the live stream, and of course those that are on my Facebook page, meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Okay, so we are, at least for the east, this storm well underway. And there, of course, when it comes to snowstorms, there's always a high degree of uncertainty. It's not, rain is easy, in relatively speaking, because, if I forecast 1.5 inches of rain and we wind up with 2 inches, you'll probably have a few extra puddles. Maybe a few of those puddles will be a bit deeper, but overall, the impact is obviously not quite the same as it is with snow, being that we don't seem to want to have it around, so we got to, move it and get it out of the way, and this becomes problematic. And one of the difficult things about forecasting snow is you're literally asking for a forecast for a flake count, okay? An inch of rain is sort of abstract because it's water, so it doesn't actually pile up up like this. Whereas snow, it's pretty much does that. It's going to pile up straight up. An inch is an inch. A foot is a foot. You can feel it. You can see it. And you experience it. So it's a very, very tough thing to ask somebody to basically to give you a flake count for a square foot, a square yard, a square mile. So the forecast becomes even more difficult because of the fact that you're dealing with a specific condition in the atmosphere. And my colleague, by the way, Jonathan Cubitt, is going to be joining us. Jonathan's one of the younger, up-and-coming meteorologists. So he's... say hi.
What's up, guys?
All
How
right.
you doing out
there? We're just getting started. Let me just fix the camera. You got your... You're all set. You don't need your tie. You look, young, handsome man like you. You look terrific. So come up closer.
Gotta keep up
so
with you, man.
We are. I was just saying how it's so much more difficult to forecast snow amounts because of the fact that you're dealing with so many different parameters of the atmosphere. You're not only dealing with the amount of moisture, but you're dealing with the temperature, and the temperature impacts the snow accumulation. The ratio of the snow at 32. Is different from the ratio of snow falling at 22. So it becomes dicey, and particularly when you're dealing with an environment, Jonathan, when you're near an ocean and a wind coming in off the ocean, this becomes a problem.
It does. And a lot of people don't understand the full aspect of it and a lot that goes on. That's just really what makes our forecast so tricky. So we could say 6 inches, but tomorrow it could be 4, and it's because of just the different elements and the different situations of what goes on with each of these storms.
Well, let me pull up the radar. We're going to go through a bunch of different things here tonight, but I want to start off with the radar, because the radar today, and we brought this up. I brought this up a couple of times this afternoon about what we were seeing on the radar geographically. That at least for my forecast area, and I have folks that are, of course, concentrated in New York City, Long Island, Hudson Valley, Eastern Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and so on. But we have folks watching actually from all over the country. I'm going to pull up the surface map first, and then we'll go to the radar. But if you look at the isobars here, where are they pointed? They're pointed up toward where? Western PA,
Yep.
right?
Where it is.
Western New York. And I mean, this is where the low wants to go. And that is going to mean that we're going to wind up with an inland low and a changeover to rain. But the other thing I saw today, and we'll bring that up here. I thought I loaded the radar before, but I guess I didn't. When you're in the area in and around New York City, and southern New England, and you see that it is actually snowing up in upstate New York and in northern New England before you're snowing, there's a problem there.
There it is.
So what do you think we're going to see going forward here, through the evening? Because we have snow breaking out, a little bit of snow breaking out, but the temperatures are very tenuous. What are you thinking here with regards to what's in front of us?
It just looks like a warmer solution. I want to say it's gonna be much more of a rain event, at least for certainly along the coast. You're gonna have to head up northwest past Dutchess and Ulster counties before you can expect to see those heavier bands of snow, and it's not until then you can expect things past maybe 4 to 5 inches. Anything south of that, again, we're looking at a lot more rain than anything. Again, the ice and the freezing rain is of course a problem that we'll have to worry about, but I know a lot of us were thinking or looking at 6+ inches earlier on this week, and I know you had mentioned it earlier. A lot of people are really sensitive to what happened with the last storm. We're all out
Back in November.
Right, back in November, but it just doesn't look like we're going to be dealing with it like that this time around.
I could probably rant a little bit tonight about this. Because there's always been, I've been doing this for 40 years. Mm-hmm. There has always been such a large amount of miscommunication between what I say and what people think I say. And now it's become magnified 100-fold because of the social media outlets.
Right.
You have politicians that they're trying to do their jobs, but I would just strongly suggest that perhaps you might want to do what the state of Pennsylvania does. The governor of Pennsylvania they have a state meteorologist on staff, so when they have these storm situations, the governor says the things that he needs to say,
right,
and then when it comes to the weather part of it, he turns it over to the weather person to explain it. Because I listened to things today that were just mind-boggling to me in terms of what's going to happen.
Right.
But that'll save that rant maybe for tomorrow or Monday. The structure on the radar to me, Jonathan, is really a classic of a system that's an inland runner. This is not a storm that's going to redevelop. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Okay. So one of the things we'll look at when we cut one with that is for clues about whether there would be potential redevelopment. And, you do have this snaking warm front that's running toward the Carolina coast. And sometimes when you have the right circumstances, and that is when you have a strong high to the north, which we do, we would see this low dying out, and then a new low would probably redevelop somewhere off North Carolina, Virginia, or the Maryland, Delaware coast, and that would pinch in. No, that would pinch in the cold air. But that high is going to weaken and move out, and that's the big difference here. This low is going to move up into West Virginia. I was trying to get the actual temperature profile over in northern West Virginia, but you can see you got 20s and 30s in Ohio and in through Indiana,
but then
right?
You have the upper 30s.
Right now you got what 40s, upper 40s,
even,
pushing up into southwestern PA. That's where this wants to go, and that is going to mean for a change over to rain.
Rain with those high temperatures. Correct.
So we've got I got the HRRR model. This is the beginnings of the brand new. This is a short range model that runs every hour. So take me through what you think is going to happen in general across the east and the northeast over the next couple of hours. So you've got your low, you've got your cold front that's run down through Alabama. Through East Tennessee, Georgia, down into the Florida Panhandle. There's actually some severe weather there tonight. So what do you think is going to happen in the snowy area? I mean, you look at this and you might think, oh boy, here it comes. But that is not going to be the case.
I'm not going to say it's too far-fetched to say. We have the low pressure over there. Where is that? Virginia and West Virginia. I want to say it's going to make it.
Right now it's in Kentucky there. Now it's going into West Virginia.
I want to say it's going to really loop its way north of us, which again, I want to say is going to drive that rain up. And again, it's going to give us more of a wet event rather than a white event.
Right. You got that east-west band of sleet there. I mean, that's moving into southern Pennsylvania.
That's a little bit to be concerned about.
Well, you know, somebody's going to wind up getting into that sleet band for a couple of hours. This is only out through 7 hours, so I'll just go back one run.
Okay.
And at this point, by the way, it's snowing up through Maine, through much of upstate New York. Those darker blues, probably moderate to heavy, moderate to heavy snow. So let's get close up here. And you know, there's that east-west band. This is at 2 a.m. Okay. So let's back it up so everybody get a flavor for this. By the way, what do you see this here? How it arcs back?
Yeah.
You see how it arcs back into? You got that finger that's pointing of rain, southern Ohio and southwest PA, and this is a perfect example of cold air trying to dam southwestward into the mountains, because the sleet area actually curves around it and moves into northern West Virginia. That is what damming it looks like. And
just like that.
Yeah, and if the high were holding, you would see that pushing all the way down into the western mountains of Virginia and North Carolina. But that is not the case. You can actually see that high giving way by just watching the sleet line. Look at that. That's actually kind of cool. You don't see that too often. But the clear sleet line, and then as the high gives way, the damming disappears, and
breaks
now
off a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So right up through here, the cold air is still holding in, but in the next hour that breaks down, and you start to see that sleet line move northward. And here at this point, it's gone. And now you see this is at the time frame here is at 4 a.m. So New York's all rain, Long Island's all rain, southern Connecticut is all rain. The rain snow line looks like it's around Route 8. The sleet rain line, is at Route 84.
You see even a little bit of freezing rain out. What's look like northern parts.
Yeah,
Sussex.
northwest Jersey and Sussex and northeastern parts of PA. There, a little freezing rain that might hang around. But I'm actually a little bit surprised. There's your low, and you were right. Look at that. You see how it just kind of meanders around? There's probably a couple of low centers. It may not just be one center. There must be a couple of vortices in there. You've got the low center just sort of meandering its way into northeastern PA, and this actually surprised me a little bit today, that the snow sleet line gets gets to about Albany, or just north of Albany. And even gets into southern New Hampshire. I was a little surprised that it got that far north, but this is what happens when you don't have an even a remote amount of blocking to kind of hold that cold air in. The low wants to go more inland, and the warm air is going to force its way northward. Yeah. Even a changeover to sleet in coastal Maine. Look at that.
Wow.
And southern New Hampshire. Now this is, by the way, at noon tomorrow. And the other thing I wanted to point out, Jonathan, is what do you think about the possibility of thunderstorms tomorrow morning?
Ooh, they look really potent, especially around the island. Was it Nassau County?
Right.
The northern parts of Suffolk County. They look like you guys could see some thunderstorms.
And even over into South Jersey, at least according to HRRR and how they there's a lot of
certainly along the coast.
There's a lot of vertical motion in the atmosphere. We've got a lot of lift. Very warm air, streaming up the East Coast. You've got that all set up for some thunderstorms and some flash flooding. Now
those temperatures get into the 40s, maybe even the 50s.
Oh, clearly.
When we move on into Sunday, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to jump over let's jump to the NAM model so we can take it a little bit further. So once this goes by, and I'll get a little wider. Once this goes by, we have bitter cold air that's up in northeastern Canada. That's got no place to go but where? Down. So we're going to move that low out, and it's going to get pretty windy here. Up, pretty much down into the Carolinas, into the eastern Carolinas, it get pretty windy. But to see the extent of the cold air, I think we'll bring up the temperature map here, and
single.
Yeah, we'll let this load. It usually takes a while. So we're back to Sunday morning here. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. You can see all the warm air. You said the 50s moving their way into coastal New Jersey, almost to Long Island. And then as we go through the day, all that Canadian air, the weight of that bitter cold air. Look at that. Just drops right southward on the backside of this.
Man.
And we're down to the single digits Monday morning. Not much recovery during the day, and then another night of single digits. The freezing line gets down into Georgia. So, it's a quick shot of cold air, which is good because it'll be in and out. And then after that, what happens here? Can you just describe how this upper air, what's going on?
Temperatures seem to get back up toward normal. We actually get a brief period of some, is that milder air by the time we get on some winds?
I mean, you got this big ridge here in between the two troughs. So, yeah, we're going to see temperatures bounce. And it's kind of hard to imagine that, as cold as we are, you've got the next weather system setting up with the next cold front here on Wednesday. The high is going out off the Jersey coast, and that front's going to come through. That's going to approach, but there's no cold air. It's actually, you have all this bitter cold air Monday and Tuesday, and when that system arrives, it's going to be all rain. It's always surprised me when that happens, but it does happen occasionally. I'm going to pull up some snow maps because one of the things, Jonathan. Jonathan's in the learning process today.
Stay with me.
Yes. One of the things with these maps that's really problematic is you can't really use them as absolute forecast tools. They without inputting what you know about your local climate and what you know about how weather systems work in the Northeast. It would be almost suicide from a forecast standpoint to put numbers simply by looking at the snow maps, because they just do a literal interpretation. This one is just a literal interpretation of what it thinks will be all snow, and that would be in the form of a 10-to-1 ratio. So, but I think it does at least illustrate, if you just look at this instead of the absolute numbers and just kind of look at it as, okay, where's the southern edge of the snow? Where do I think the heavier snow is going to fall?
Idea of what's and where.
And I think you'd agree. This kind of matches up pretty well.
It does.
You like the southern end there. I mean, that's pretty much what the observations are bearing out now.
For the most part, yeah. Long Island again, looking at mostly rain, but we don't have a lot of snowfall totals.
And what do we got over here?
We got the damming.
The damming.
Yeah,
you see it? The damming down. Yeah. So. That's always critical to look for, and in the storms that they had in Virginia and North Carolina, that was the wedging. It's all about the wedge, as my buddy Jason Nappy, who I've had on the show before, would say, because he's worked in North Carolina. It's all about the wedge, and when that cold air wedges into the mountains, you wind up with some pretty sizable snowfalls. So I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it on the short side tonight, folks, because it's been a really long week. I'm going to come to the chat board before this, but I just want to show you, we do have severe weather tonight. For those of you that are watching in the southeast, we have 2 areas of severe weather risk and an ongoing tornado watch that is up in eastern Alabama and in southwestern Georgia. That's that area of red there. And we have another marginal risk area along the North Carolina coast. So this is reflecting the strength of this weather system that is impacting the eastern part of the U.S. And I want to let me bring this down. Hang on. Let's just go over. I want to go over a few things with everybody. So maybe we're not going to end this quite just yet. So hang on there. So here's the extent of this winter storm. That's a lot of states that are covered right now in winter storm warnings. And one of the things that struck me about this, Jonathan, was the fact that you don't see Chicago, Cleveland, and Boston under winter storm warnings from the same storm at the same time. But we had that today. At one point, New York City was under a winter storm watch, but that's gone to advisory. And we also have advisories on the southern end, going back down, even warnings down into southern Illinois. In the west, with the next weather system coming in, we have numerous winter storm watches going up in Utah and Wyoming. We've got advisories up in Montana. Another mess getting ready to get underway in California. So that, of course, is going to be the next weather system that will be moving across. That's probably, part of that is probably the midweek cold front that is going by. And let me come back to this map. Let me come back to the guidance here. I want to pull up the GFS in the long term, because the hang on, got to get the right region. So, do you look at the long term stuff? Do you look at the long range upper air, or
Most of the time I do.
okay? So, did you look at it today?
I did not look at it today.
All right, so let's look at it today. So, here we are at the current time. This is our storm. Our trough, lifts out. Now, can you describe what's happening here meteorologically?
Yeah, it's ridge pulling through, and again, more warmer air starting to funnel on in, and it's going to stick with us until.
Well, but in general, across the United States, when you're looking at this, you've got your ridges are where? You got ridges on both coasts,
and then
you got a trough in the middle. Okay, and then that trough is going to
bring in a lot.
Well, it's going to try to, but let's just talk about with respect to the weather here in the eastern United States.
Okay.
Okay. Would you say that this trough is the kind of trough that you would want to see if you wanted to see a snowy pattern for us?
I would say yes.
Okay. Would you say that? Well, at least certainly for New England. Okay. But there is a problem with it, and one of the problems is that the trough is broad. Which is going to offset the problem, and the problem is the axis of the trough is right around 85, not quite to 90 west, but it's about 85 to 90. So it needs to be a little bit further east. The snow lovers might be happy to know that the trough axis has been actually at 90.
Okay.
So this on the recent run of models, it looks like the trough axis wants to shift a bit further to the east to 85. That might make cold air a little bit more important the next time around. And there's a nice looking trough here that's being indicated for late week and early next week that both the GFS and the European pick up on.
Okay.
And that lifts up. But what's really interesting is what's going on up in the poles, because you got higher pressures up in the poles. What do you think that's going to do to cold air? It's going to displace it south, right?
Right. It's going to push it down.
All right. So going forward, I mean, it seems to me that there should be opportunities. There are going to be more chances and possibly more disappointments for snow lovers going forward, depending on one thing or another.
Absolutely.
But would you agree that the pattern looks at least somewhat conducive for?
It definitely looks conducive for some more white weather moving forward, especially toward the tail end of the month.
All right. Okay. So we gave everybody at least a taste of the long range. All right. So I'm going to come back to the chat board. Let's see what some of the folks are saying here. And let me get the latest. You have to say hi to Alfred Phillips. You know where Alfred is? Alfred is in Wainwright, Alaska.
Wow.
You know where Wainwright, Alaska is? It's actually pretty on the north coast, not too far from Barrow. So he's my most northernmost regular YouTube.
Hey, Alfred.
And he pointed out yesterday. He pointed out yesterday. Where's his temperatures?
Here we had it. -3 Fahrenheit.
-3 Fahrenheit. He's got spring over there. That's spring. Jonathan was telling me, he's not being in the cold winter weather climate is not exactly his thing. I'm just trying to let's see. I see a lot of you are doing going the big bust route. Robert Woods, major winter storm to nothing. I imagine you're on the. I'm imagining that a lot of you that are in the bust area, the quote unquote bust area, are in that southern end in New Jersey, and Long Island and southern New England. Let me just make it clear. I don't know. I know on my shows this week, at no time did I, indicate, at least for the South Coast, that I can remember talking about a foot plus of snow. Okay, but I will agree with you, Dark Legend. The NAM did not handle this well at all. The NAM now I think has lost its it's had a hot hand for so long that everybody seemed to kind of gravitated to it automatically, and it has not worked well. So I think it's time to look elsewhere. Just because it was a bust for your area, says 5,000 subscribers with no videos, that doesn't mean that the whole storm is a bust. He's right. This storm is no bust. By no means is it a bust. It just happens to be that all storms bust everywhere. This one may be busting where a vast majority of my audience is. Right. Well, busting in terms of expectations. I think those expectations were probably somewhat, overblown. I laid out a scenario of yesterday on one of my later calls of just a couple of inches in and around New York City. I don't know how that ultimately gets blown up higher.
They were looking at a foot.
Patterson, New Jersey, supposed to get 8 to 12, now 3 to 5, and probably less. Stormhouse, whose forecast was 8 to 12? Because I'm just going to say, just to be clear, that was not mine. Okay, I'm just kind of curious as to whose forecast was 8 to 12. Matthew Warman, it seems like all the impending snow events turn out to be rainstorms for the coastal Northeast. Well, without a good block, we've had the blocking when there's been no storms around for the most part. Now we don't have the blocking, and the storms have come back. So you kind of got to get the two together. But I just want to let you guys know, the 1970s, every winter was like this. Every winter was like this. Snow at the start, changing to rain, going up to 50 with inland lows that went to the west of the coastline, and the inland areas north and west did well, and the coastal areas did not. Rick 8013, the NAM has definitely lost its mojo. Hey, John Bulmer, you're up in Saratoga, one of my favorite places in the People's Republic of the state of New York. 8 to 14 is what they're going for. Have you started snowing there yet? That's what I'm curious about. I can't pull the ob up right now, otherwise I checked on my own. Green fire, yes, but not for all areas, correct. Nothing in Philadelphia, you're all rain. Who was that? That was Witchy Angel 777. Robert Woods is in Carteret. Yeah, look, they are what they are, Robert. If you follow the forecast along, it's tough, and we certainly were cold enough over the last number of days. It's not like we were, in some sort of a bad pattern going into it, but it last night and this morning was an opportunity for that big high to build down the East Coast, and it just didn't happen in terms of the cold air. It drained southward in Pennsylvania and in western PA. That's where all the cold air really wound up draining southward. So I think that pretty well sums it up with regards to this particular storm. Now, the snows will continue upstate New York, up through Vermont, New Hampshire, Boston. You'll at least break your drought, even though you're going to go to rain. And we'll come back to this tomorrow. We'll wrap it up and look back at what fell, and then on to the next one. All right. So. Next time around, I'm going to have you take the lead of the discussion.
I could do that.
You could have done it tonight.
I didn't want to take your shot. Yeah.
No, that's why I brought you on here. I wanted you to, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
I'm Jonathan Cubitt. I was pretty much born and raised here in Westchester, New York. That's where our studio is. And this is actually my first meteorologist gig. I'm a weather weekend meteorologist, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. here on Phylus One News. If you guys are in the area and you have it, check me out. Again, we continue to do our best to keep you entertained and informed.
All right.
Here with the weather.
Well, we do entertain. That's one thing we do on my YouTube channel. We do entertain. All right, so I'm going to leave it here, folks. You can check out, I've got a whole bunch of stuff to look at. You can go on my weather platform on Patreon. and take a look at National Weather Service snowfall forecast maps up and down the East Coast. Those are available, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. And you do get private live streams. It's a subscription site. It's just $2 a month. But if you want serious weather without all the distractions, without all the noise, and without all the nonsense that goes on social media, this might not be a bad option for you. We've got a nice little group of over 200 people now and growing. So just take a look at that. And for those, do you have an iPhone or an Android?
iPhone.
I'm not talking to you. Okay. You're still going to have to wait. But if you've got an Android, you can download my free weather app for Android, and it's right. I put the link up there also on the chat board. Tomorrow.
Thanks, John.
What did John say?
Said good luck.
Oh, that's John Trabacchino. Good man. He's up in Western Mass, so he's got his chair placed by the window so we can watch all the snow.
He's gonna have a nice little show tonight.
Yeah, and then the sleet when he changes over to sleet for a little while. Tomorrow, I may or may not live stream tomorrow. It depends on if I feel like I want to take a day off, because this has been a very, very long week. If I don't, I will be back on Monday at the usual time at 7 o'clock. If I do, I'm not sure. So I'll put something up on the schedule on my YouTube channel. I'll put in a time, and we'll try to see if I can get it done. I need a day to kind of zone out after a long week of watching a storm develop, and otherwise you get brain fried. But you can also check out my website post, all the website posts I have on the weather at meteorologistjoechaffee.com. Monday, by the way, will be back to normal, so there'll be a 7 o'clock YouTube live stream, and the Joe and Joe weather show on Facebook at 9:25 on my Facebook page, Meteorologist Joe Chaffee.
That's it.
Say good night.
Have a good night, guys. Great
All right.
talking and meeting.
Good night,
Love you
everybody.
all.